Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the new video of the day, which is going to be Necrotic Wake. Now, this is probably one of the easiest dungeons there is, since the highest level of content done by the best of the best players is usually a Necrotic Wake or a Plague Fall. They're both pretty simple dungeons to grasp, and they both are, because of the fact they have a lot of borrowed power. In terms of Necrotic Wake, it is the weapons that are in here. You want to start off with Necrotic Wake with making sure you have a Kyrian in the group, at least one. This greatly helps the progression of the dungeon and will allow you to complete it a lot quicker and a lot more smoothly, because the ability of a Kyrian is to be able to unlock Goliaths around the area, which therefore will give you orbs, which people can grab, and will pulse out AoE damage and healing over time for a long period of time. So you want to make sure you're utilizing those orbs with a Kyrian. As always, if you like the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for more videos later on down the track, but we're just going to start off and head into the Necrotic Wake VOD review here. Now, I am on my Monk this time instead of my DK. I do play all 6 tanks, so right now my Monk is going to be doing this key, and we're going to be starting off with a 22 Necrotic Wake. Now, once again, this is a carry key. We are helping a friend out right now, so we're going to start off on the left side. We're going to pull the Blight Bags. Now, this is a fortified storming bursting week. Now, your route's not really going to change depending on Tyran or fortified. What's going to change is when you really use your extra weapons in here. So most notably, the orbs that the tank usually gets. There's 2 located around the instance, and the spears. Now I'll explain when to use things and how to use them. As you can see on my right hand side here, there is a weak aura that I have that shows who has each specific weapon throughout the instance as we go along. It is a very, very handy weak aura to have, so I will put it in the description box below so you guys can grab it yourselves. It's nice to know who has what weapon so you can call out who to use, who and what weapon you should be using in a given situation. So on a boss or on some mobs, or if you need to save something, so far so forth. So we're going to grab these Blight Bags on the left. We're going to go to the Patchwork Soldiers. This is a pretty big pull for the first pull. If you can't do this in one pull, do it in sections. You don't really have to all do it in one pull. We're going to grab this pull pack here. We're going to Blight Bags on the right side as well. Now, as you can see, the Blight Bags at the top here were pulled as well. You want to do that, but you usually want a ranged DPS or a healer to grab the Blight Bags just while they're pathing in between the other mobs. So let's go back a little bit and let's show this pull once again. So I'm going to go here, here. Now, as you can see, the Blight Bags are padding right there. They're at the top left right now. Now, there's a pack on the left, which is the Gatekeeper here, and then there's a pack on the right, which is another Gatekeeper. You want to be pulling these mobs round about just before it hits the portal, right in the middle of the room there, so it doesn't pull the Gatekeepers either side. Otherwise, it's not a fun time to recover from that. So I'm going to grab my healer to be able to flame shock that Blight Bag there. They're going to come through. I'm going to pull everything. We're going to lust. This is your lust point on fortified. Now, lust point will be different on tyrannical. Tyrannical, you're usually going to lust every single boss. On fortified, you're going to lust this first pull. You're going to lust the second boss. You're going to lust the last boss, or the third boss if you want to one phase the boss. Fortified, you can choose either or for the last boss. On tyrannical, you want to lust the first boss, the second boss, and the last boss if possible. Now we're going to pull all these, I'm going to gather everything. All you need to do here is make sure you're interrupting the one corpse harvester here. Everything else is going to do melees. You want to make sure the tank is as close as possible to the vanguard, so the bone claw actually hits the tank and not someone else. And you want to make sure you're interrupting the shield that it casts as well. Now, as you can see, the vanguard is going to start gaining a bunch of stacks called bone armor, I'm pretty sure. As you can see, it is right there. If you can see where my mouse is, it's got a 6 stack right there. Now, that can be removed by a tranquilizing shot from a hunter. So if you ever have a hunter, tranquilizing shot will get rid of it. I'm pretty sure you can also spell steal it. I'm not too sure on that one, but usually we have a hunter in our group and they will just tranquilizing shot that to get rid of it. Otherwise, the mob's going to have so much armor and so much resistance that it's going to take a while before you can kill it. So we're going to do that big pull. That's our last pull. We're going to grab, there's a weapon on the side here, on the right hand side, just below, with a hammer. How you can get that is by getting someone with a CC. So you can get a Mind Soothe from a priest, you can get a trap from a hunter, and then a Feign Death afterwards. You can get a polymorph and an invis from a mage. You can get a Ring of Peace and a paralysis from a monk. There's heaps of different things. You can get a sap. You can get a DH cage, imprison. There's so many things that you can do. So right now we get a paralysis on there, a rop away, and then we can grab that as well. So as you can see, our Windwalker monk has a hammer, as you can see by the weak aura on the right side. So here, same concept. You've got 2 harvesters now. Interrupt the drain fluids. You're going to get here or Vi, depending on what you want, to go into the boss, as that's the next pull. You got the Vanguard still. You're still trank shotting the buff off, and you're also interrupting the shield that it casts and staying in as close as possible to the Vanguard so the Bone Claw hits the tank and not the DPS. I'm going to grab all those. We're just going to skip through here. Meat shield, drain fluids, standard stuff. Throw flesh is just going to be random. There's nothing you can do there except for CCing or stunning. And we're going to kill all these, and here is your first Goliath. Now, in order to open this Goliath, you need to use your companion, which a Kyrian always has. It's on a 5-minute cooldown. You need to make sure you click it, you talk to them, and you will click the option, can you open this Goliath, or can you summon this Goliath? It'll have Goliath in the text, so you'll know which one it is, and then your companion will start hammering the Goliath. After about 5 to 10 seconds, the Goliath will stand up, like so, and orbs will spawn on the ground. Now, be very careful if you're on your mount. If you're on your mount, you do have the ability to walk over 2 orbs, and you will soak both of them. Now, that will remove an orb from another person, thus reducing the amount of DPS and healing your entire group is going to have with those orbs. These orbs are incredibly powerful, so as soon as you get them, make sure you're going into a pull immediately. Otherwise, you're wasting time. So everyone's going to grab an orb. We're all going to jump up onto here. I'm going to pull the boss onto this pack up here, and we're going to kill everything. Now, there's 2 encrypted packs here. This is a bit of a sketchy pull sometimes. If you don't want to do this, you can do it in 2 pulls. This is fine. Now, bear in mind that this is a very simple route. We're not doing anything too fancy. All these pulls can be broken down into separate pulls. You don't have to pull as big as I am. Take it at your own pace, tanks. If you're starting off, or if you're a little bit more advanced, you can go into these pulls like this. Just make sure you've got a few things over here. Now, these encrypted need to be, you need to be hitting these encrypted with the ones that you actually want to get. So ideally, you can get 1 of each, you just don't want to double up. So you can get an and a Vi, an and a woe, a Vi and a Vi and a woe, or a woe and a Vi, if you want to. Just make sure you don't get 2 or 2 woes or 2 Vis, because they don't really do anything if they stack up. They're just gonna reset the amount of time you have on that buff, and only by like 5 or 10 seconds, because they're all gonna die pretty similarly at the same time. Now the only thing you need to watch out for here is you've got 2 corpse harvesters on the right that you need to interrupt with drain fluids, and you need to make sure you're looking out at what spawns. If you've got woes, you got to make sure you're interrupting the woe cast. If you've got Vi's, you need to make sure you're watching out for the lines. If you've got you need to make sure you're watching out for the slam. Simple. But there's a lot of things going on, so it might get a bit chaotic. The last thing you need to watch out for is Blightbone, which is the boss. He will cast a frontal that needs to be a targeted frontal. That needs to be faced away from the group. So ideally here, the group will be on the left-hand side of the boss as you pull. The tank will be facing the boss this way on the right, and whoever gets targeted will move to where the tank positions. The tank will then swap to where the rest of the group is. Now, it is imperative that if you have a orb on you, which everyone should have at this point, you are next to the mobs and the tank. You need to be stacking tightly, because it is a small pulse that comes out of your body that you need to use to heal and DPS all of these mobs. These will die very quickly as long as everyone is stacked in. Now, as you can see, everyone's stacked in except for our hunter over there, who is chucking a spear onto the boss. Now, if you chuck the spear, using the spear, it'll do a big chunk of damage to its target, and as well as hitting everything in between you and the target. So if you line it up properly, you can essentially kill this entire pack with one spear, which is very good. As you see, the Kyrian weapon, that did 3.5 million damage. Now, it's not just the spear. Obviously, Kyrian weapon also includes the orbs that we have on us, so that's a lot of damage. That is very, very, very good amount of damage that can easily turn this pull from an absolute shit show into a very simple pull. Now, unfortunately, we did get 2 Vi's because of the spear, but it's just what we have to deal with. It's just luck of the draw at this stage. So I'm going to stack in. Everything's dying nice and quick. We're going to get a Ring of Peace. As you saw, the person with the spit did not move to the right. Our healer saw that issue, popped a Ring of Peace. Oh, not a Ring of Peace, sorry. A SLT, sorry. And kept us alive. Which was very, very, very well done and very, very lucky that we got that. Otherwise, we would have had a few deaths there. But yeah, when you guys are doing this, make sure the person with the spit is turning the boss away from the group. Otherwise, that happens and everyone gets ruined very, very quickly. Our mage pops his cauterize, which is not great. Now the boss is going to start doing fetid gas, which just puts these green pools on the ground. You just don't want to stand in it, otherwise it silences you and it will deal damage over time. It's not great. Yeah, I don't know why I forgot what SLT meant. Spiritling Totem. Sorry about that, guys. So the boss will do an ability called Crunch as well, which is the basic tank buster mechanic. Just make sure you use a defensive when you get crunched. On a higher tyrannical, it is going to hurt a lot. So make sure you've got something up for that every time. The boss will periodically keep doing the spit on random people. Make sure you're using a defensive every time you get the spit on. Otherwise, you will end up dying or having an overlap, which is not great. And then the last thing you need to worry about on the boss is you need to worry about the carrion worms that are spawning. So the carrion worms that spawn are 3 worms that are going to be slowly targeting a person, different people, and they will fixate on you. They will not stop attacking you unless they die. So you need to make sure these carrion worms here, they are killed, but most importantly, you do not stay near them at melee range. Only attack the ones that are not attacking you if you're in melee, and only attack and make sure you're killing them quickly as a ranged, or kiting them and AoEing them down. Purely for the fact that every time they melee hit, they will gain a stack. Once they get to 5 stacks, they will explode, put a massive debuff and a dot on everyone in the group, and you'll most likely wipe. It is a very, very, very tough debuff to heal off. You need to make sure that your carrion worms do not get to 5 stacks by the time they are dead. So make sure they die before they get to 5 stacks. That is the most important thing. Do not get melee by them. They do hurt a lot. As you can see, there's a binding shot that goes down. We have our mage putting down frost novas and slowing them down as much as possible, and we're just ring and piecing them away so we can AoE them down while focusing on the boss. Now I call here to get the soldiers, because these 3 soldiers you want to grab as well during the boss fight. If you can't get them, if they're not in a good position on top of the boss when you're pulling the boss, you don't have to worry about it. You can just grab them in during the boss fight, so then you can cleave off them. And a lot of DPS will love you for cleaving off that. As you saw, our hunter over there didn't use a defensive, which almost resulted in them dying, because this boss is not a joke. It's not a joke. It's quite an easy boss, but like, if you're not using defensives when you should be, it will result in death. And that is not fun, especially on bosses. Boss deaths are a lot worse than trash deaths, because trash deaths you can release. Boss deaths you cannot. Just make sure you're doing the boss mechanics properly, guys. Alright, so we're going to kill these 3 off. Now, unfortunately, I pulled that a little late because the pat was wrong, so we ended up having to stay there for a good 15-20 more seconds to kill those, which is not ideal, but you would want them to be dead, obviously, at the same time as the boss. Now, this next pull, we're going to pull the left side, Sorcerer, Bone Carver, the middle pack with the Necromancer, and we're going to pull the right pack of Blight Bags. That's going to be your next pull. Now, if you're a DK, you can take control of this mage. If you're a priest, you can shackle it. The mage is very annoying. It does a Frostbolt volley. You need to interrupt. The Necromancers will do a Necrotic Bolt. You need to interrupt. Same as the Sorcerers. Bone Carvers will do an ability called Bone Carve that will put a dot on the tank or the nearest target. I don't know if they've changed it from nearest target to just the tank nowadays, but it is the tank from what I've seen. You can kite this Bone Carver ability if you're far enough away when it goes off, and you can avoid the Bone Carver. You don't have to sit there and tank it to the face, so be careful with that. They have changed also the Necromancer pack recently to where your AoE damage does not affect any of the adds that the Necromancer has. So you need to just single target the Necromancer, because doing any type of AoE or cleave does nothing. It doesn't go towards your damage profile, it doesn't do any damage to the adds, because the adds do not die. Only the Necromancer dies. So for right here, I tried to paralysis it and rop it away, so we don't have to deal with it. I'm going to pull these two, I'm going to grab the Necromancer here, and we want to target the Necromancer, because the longer this Necromancer stays up, the worse it is, because it just keeps summoning more adds. Now, it's going to cast something called Grim Fate. You just need to make sure you're using a defensive, and it will go off. Try not to stack on anyone else, because it'll do AoE. Necrotic bolts need to be done, and now there's a thing called Shadow Well. Now, be very, very careful of Shadow Well. The sorcerer pops the Shadow Well on the ground. You need to make sure you're not standing in it, because it gives you a massive debuff and also ticks for a lot of damage. As soon as the Shadow Well comes down, you're moving out of it straight away. So we're killing all of these. We've got Sorcerer, Bone Carver, and Necromancer still up. Now Grim Fate's coming off. Shadow Well's that green-black pool on the ground. You want to make sure you're avoiding that as much as possible. And we're just cleaving everything down. Now that Crossbowman is great. We've got that CC on there straight away. Perfect. That Mage has been re-CC'd as well. Everything's looking good. What a clean pull. Perfect. Love it. Okay, the Bone Carver's coming off. Bone Flay's coming. I dodged that, which is great. Now I'm going to go pick up this orb. This is for the tank. So this orb you're going to use on the next pull here, the Discharged Anima. It does a AoE silence for 8 seconds, pulsing, and also does a shit ton of damage. This is great on this next pack, which is Nalthor the mini-boss, because everything around there does necrotic bolts, and if they all hit you at the same time, you're pretty much dead. So you want to make sure that you're using that orb to pull everything in, because interrupting those mobs bring them into you. So this is a great, like, secondary way of mass gripping. If you're not a DK, you can also mass grip as a DK, but it's better to just use this. And we're going to open this Goliath at the same time. I'm going to utilize both of them. So this is full uptime on the Goliath orbs at the same time as using a Discharge Anima, which is fantastic. Now, ideally you want this pack to be next to here, so you can just pull them together. But we're going to pull in a way where we interrupt the Sorcerer, because everything else will just run into you. Get a ranged interrupt on the Sorcerer, and then you're going to roll into here, grab everything. You can grab Woe, Vi, whatever you want here. Either or is great. We're going to pull these. Now, the most important pack in here is the Marauder. Many a melee DPS have been killed by the Marauder. It does a frontal cleave. You cannot be near the tank or in front of the mob ever. Otherwise, you will get one shot as a DPS. It also does a shield. You need to save your DPS cooldowns for that shield, because if you do your DPS cooldowns before the shield and you have nothing for it, it will just live forever. It's a very high health mob, but if you destroy the shield within a certain time frame after it's been cast, it will kill itself immediately, as you can see from this clip right now. So I'm going to pull in, grab everything. I'm going to pop the orb. Everything's going to get silenced. We're going to dodge those on the ground. Very clear to dodge those. You don't want to stand in the bad stuff. Now, it's also going to cast an ability called... it's going to cast a Scream, which is going to be an AoE Fear. I forgot what the Scream was called, actually. As you can see, we did so much damage with both our weapons here. Our orbs from the Goliath and our Discharge Anima orb. I stand in the silence, so now you can see what happens when you stand in the bad. You do get silenced and take a lot of damage. Yeah, we had so much damage from both orbs that the Marauder just killed itself because we killed the shield in time, which is great, and you'll see it more in depth on this next pull with the double Marauder. So here, I'm going to grab these both as well. Now, in order of grabbing weapons, you need to make sure you're grabbing the... if you're going to be using a spear anytime soon, and you're grabbing a hammer as well, you need to make sure that you're grabbing the hammer first and the spear last, because the most recent weapon you pick up is the one that you can use first. So if you're needing to spear, but you pick up a spear first and a hammer second, you won't be able to spear unless you use your hammer. Then you're wasting a weapon, because you're going to be saving your hammers for the last boss, most likely. Because we will explain later why you need to save hammers for the last boss. I'm going to grab a hammer and then a spear, because I need to use a spear first later on. We're going to go for this double Marauder pack here. Now the double Marauder pack, again, I'm facing them away from the DPS, so they don't get cleaved. It's going to do, the gruesome cleave is the frontal, which you need to make sure you're facing away from people and people are not standing on you. Now Bone Shatter is what you need to kill. Rasping Scream is the one that you need to interrupt, otherwise it AoE fears everyone. Now I'm calling for people to save their cooldowns for these shields, because doing damage beforehand means absolutely nothing. Break these shields, they kill themselves. So I'm calling for cooldowns, everyone's popping their cooldowns, and we're going to kill the shields now. But we don't, because they didn't listen. They should be listening now on the second one. As you can see how long it takes if you don't do it properly. It takes a long time for them to die, because the shields aren't going down. This is the reason why you save your cooldowns, ladies and gentlemen, for the shield. Otherwise, this happens, and we stay here for a solid 2 minutes trying to kill 2 mobs. Now, I see Combust going off. So our mage has Combust. Mage is going to be slapping into these. Shield's going to go, and Marauder kills itself. Second Bone Shatter, shield's going to go, and Marauder will kill itself. There you go. So when it's done properly, that pack can take about 10 seconds. When it's not done properly, that pack will take about 2 to 3 minutes. Wasting a lot of time. Something you don't want to do. So we're going to CC that mage again, double Rop away. It gets broken out, but we have a bunch of CCs going off at it. Everyone's on the ball today for that one, so it's great. Now, we're going to kill this pack, Necromancer pack, grab this Goliath, and this Goliath orb is going to be used for the next pack. Now, this next pack, it is essential that you get Woe here. Woe will make it very easy for everyone to just go through and straight into the boss. If you don't have Woe and you get something else, just invis past the last pack near the second boss. It's not a big deal, but it's just nicer to have Woe so you can just go straight into the boss. Now, there is a route which requires the hunter to go and start the RP for the boss, jump back down, and then grab the orbs for the boss. You will be doing that route for Tyrannical. Now, if you want me to explain that route later on, let me know in the comment section below. I can make another video doing a Tyrannical route for Necrotic Wake. I don't mind doing that. But this is mostly a fortified route and a very simplistic route. Nothing too crazy going on here. This is a very standard route that a lot of people use. I've been using this for months. It's a very clean route. I really enjoy doing this route as well. We're going to get double Bone Carver, a Sorcerer, and a bunch of these corpses here. Or triple Bone Carver, sorry. Now, we've got the relics. We're going to get Woe, hopefully. We do get Woe. Hog. Fantastic. Now, I'm going to make sure I'm interrupting Woe. You always want to make sure there's someone interrupting Woe. You don't want that burst going off, because that's a lot of unchecked damage that can really scare a healer if they don't have cooldowns rolling. So I'm going to kill everything. Now, you want to make sure as a monk that even though you have Rushing Jadewind on, if you have Woe, it will take you out of stealth and it will attack people. So make sure you're clicking off your Rushing Jadewind or having a macro to remove the Jadewind aura. Otherwise, you're just going to start pulling mobs while in Woe. So our healer's going to grab the last 2 weapons here. So now we officially have 3 hammers, 2 spears on the right side, you can see. And then we're going to have 1 more orb over here, which is in this back corner, which I'm going to be grabbing as well. I'm going to be using this orb later on a double pull upstairs. On Tyrannical, you'll be saving this orb for the 3rd boss if there are double ups on Abomination ads and you're starting to get overwhelmed, or to kill the 2nd boss quickly. Now, this boss, very important. You're going to get here. Is essential here. You want to make sure you're killing this boss as soon as possible. We're going to lust this point. I'm going to kill Now, this boss has a few main abilities. It's quite a simple boss. It's going to summon 5 ads. 2 mages, 1 crossbowman, 2 warriors. Warriors are going to stack in, the mages are going to be far out, and the crossbowman is going to be far out. Now you want to essentially pull the boss and the warriors onto the crossbowmen, and then CC the mages that are out of the way, so you don't have to deal with all of them. In a bad scenario, if they do get broken out, just interrupt the mages so they can come in as well, and you want to kill the mobs before the boss starts casting. Otherwise, if a mob is up, you will die. The way to deal with the mobs if they are up is to hard stun them just before the cast goes off, and they will not kill you. Now you got to make sure you do that. If that is a big if there is a case where there is a mob still up and the boss is doing the cast, just before the cast goes off, do a hard stun. Do a long single target stun or an AoE stun, and that will save you. Just make sure you do it. That's the way to save the boss fight. So it's not all over if there's a mob up. So we're gonna get here. The boss is gonna periodically do Necrotic Bolt. You need to make sure you have interrupts on that, otherwise it starts getting a bit hairy. Mages again, they're gonna be casting Frostbolt Volley. You want to interrupt that. Standard Frostbolts you don't have to worry about. Frostbolt Volley is the one you need to make sure you interrupt. Crossbowmen is just going to shoot random people, and warriors are just going to slap you. It's just a tank and spank there. Now the boss is going to also do an ability called Necrotic Breath. Now you need to make sure that you are not facing where the boss is, otherwise you're going to get a debuff, just like our Peeler just did. And the debuff is going to be a 10-second debuff, and it's going to hurt a lot over a period of time. And it is not fun to keep up. It's a lot of extra healing that doesn't need to be utilized. Now, wherever the ads die here, they're going to spawn a swirl when the boss is doing a cast. Don't stand in the swirl, you will die if you stand in the swirl. So essentially as the tank, you want to be moving the boss after the ads are dead away from the corpses, so then people don't have to run anywhere and they can just kind of, you know, chill. But I know the mobs are on the side here, so all the melee can just go onto the left side, we can still attack, and you know, everything is always fine. I should be moving the boss a lot further away just to make it easier for everyone, but it's a 22. I'm just chilling. I'm just having a good time. We're gonna have the mages spawn again. Now this is unfortunate. The crossbowman is right next to the mage, so we're gonna have to move the boss onto the mage since the crossbowman is there and we have nothing to grip it over to us. So we're just gonna pull like this. We still have that one mage over there interrupted, which is good. And this is pretty much a very simple fight. Just make sure you get the interrupts, make sure you kill the ads before the boss does its cast, and then dodge the frontal. That's about it. So the rest of the boss fight goes pretty smoothly, and we're going to end up killing the boss here. Now, a lot of tips and tricks in this area. This is usually the easy part of the dungeon. This second leg of the dungeon is where a lot of things go wrong very quickly, especially on the third boss or the Necropolis itself. Now, I'm going to go by play-by-play of how to make this a little easier for you guys. And there are a lot of little things that you can do to make your life easier here. Now, a priest does make this place quite easy, but it requires everyone else to be very focused, because you can use the Fleshcrafter's ability, which is Throw Cleaver, to do a lot of damage to the mobs that are a bit of a problem. So the Stitchworks and the Abominations, those are the ones that really hurt. So as you can see, we're going to pull the spare parts first, because this is all unnecessary damage if I'm using the orb or anyone else's abilities. This is unnecessary damage. The spare parts will just target random players. Now, in order for the spare parts to target the tank, you just have to AoE stun them, and then they will target only one person, which is the tank. If you don't AoE stun them, they will target random people. So there's a little tip for you guys. So we're just going to kill the spare parts, waiting on cooldowns as well, just making sure they're all dead. Now we're going to pull this double pack here. Now the reason why we pull this double pack in this corner is because there's only one big mob, which is the Stitchwork. Now you want to be either killing the corpse collectors first or the Stitchwork first. Ideally the Stitchwork, because it does a debuff, an armor debuff on the, not even an armor debuff, it's just a damage debuff on the tank, which will periodically increase up to 4 stacks. And the tank will be taking a lot of damage once it gets to 4 stacks. And the only way to remove it is to let it drop. So you either need someone to taunt it off you, usually a pet from a hunter can do it, or a monk, or a warrior, or a DH, someone that can run away really far and taunt while you can taunt back before it hits the DPS to remove your stacks. Or you're just gonna have to tank and spank it and just hope you don't get one shot. So we're gonna grab these, get the 2 collectors. Now the collectors have very important abilities that you need to stop. These collectors are different than the ones before. These ones will cast Drain Fluid, but also cast an ability called Gore Splatter. Now Gore Splatter is extremely bad if it goes off. It will hit every person in the group, and it will do a lot of ticking damage. Do not let Gore Splatter go off. Drain Fluids, however, obviously don't let it go off as well, but it'll do a single target stun and hurt one person rather than the entire group. So if you ever in a situation where you have to interrupt either Gore Splatter or Drain Fluids, interrupt Gore Splatter and then just use some sort of CC or a knockback to stop the Drain Fluids going off as well. Now over here, I'm just going to make sure they're all nice and tight here. As you saw, I used my my orb there to get interrupts on both the collectors and do some periodic damage overall to make sure they die in a timely fashion. Now that Gore Splatter was very close to going off, so we interrupt that. Now the Stitch work is dying quite nicely. Luckily, I have a Earth Elemental here from the healer, which takes a lot of the edge off me having to survive. I've got 3 stacks of that damage debuff right now, which as you can see on my debuff counter right here. 3 stacks, I've got 6 seconds left on it. Now I'm going to go into this pack here too. So this pack, you got the Flesh Crafter, which does the Throw Cleaver, which means you need to have a mob in between you as the target and the mob itself, the Flesh Crafter. Otherwise it's going to hit you, and Throw Cleavers at a higher level will one-shot you 100%. Don't make it go through another person, just make it go and make sure it hits a mob. Now this whole Flesh Crafter scenario is helping you understand how to hit the boss on the third boss, and how to use the hooks from the abominations to get the third boss down from the platform, which we will discuss when we get there. Now, you've got the Throw Cleaver. As you can see, it's on our monk, making sure that it goes onto one of the mobs. We've got the Gore Splatter and Drain Fluids from the collector, and now we've got this Spine Crush, which is an AoE on the ground, as you can see indicated by the white circle there. You need to make sure that you either stun it, knock it back, or move away from it. Otherwise, it will kill you as well. The creation that is doing that Spine Crush cast as well will also do a Bone Claw, which will hit the nearest target. So you need to make sure the tank is the nearest target. Everything else is basically tank and spank. Same stuff, same stuff. And we're going to go to the back corner here. We're going to get or Vi here. You've got a Throw Cleaver here from a you've got a Throw Cleaver here from the Flesh Crafter, and you also have a Loyal Creation with the Spine Crush and the melee ability that it has to hit the tank as well, called Bone Claw. Now, the Flesh Crafter also does an ability called Repair Flesh, which will start healing the creation quite quickly, so you need to make sure you interrupt that as well, since the crafter and the creation are linked. So as we kill these, now the little thing that you can do is you can use this Flesh Crafter, since it's still alive and you don't want to be just sitting there hitting one mob, you can pull it into the next pack and use the Flesh Crafter's cleavers to hit the next mobs, which I think we do here. So I'm pulling it in now. Now you just got to be very careful and make sure that the person that's getting targeted by the cleaver is actually aware that it's targeting them, and they're positioning themselves in a way that it's not going to kill someone else and it's actually going to hit a mob. If you guys aren't, comfortable with doing that, don't worry about it. Just kill the cleaver and don't do something too fancy if you don't need to. You know what I mean? Don't overachieve. This is basically the same pack as before. You got one big guy, which is the Stitch work you need to kill. You got the Collector with the Drain Fluids and the Gore Splatter, and then you've got the Flesh Crafter with the Cleaver and the Patchwork Soldiers, which is just tank and spank jumpy boys. So we're gonna kill that. Now, the next pack is going to be these 2 cleavers that spawn in the middle. Now the cleavers will spawn through the portals here. You want to make sure they're close enough together. Now, important little tidbit here. On a Sanguine week, you want to make sure they are not together at all. Because if one dies, the other one will not move. And you cannot move the mob at all unless you all move completely to the other side of the room and are like LOSing somehow. They won't move, so it'll just fully heal. So make sure on Sanguine week, these guys are separated when one is about to die. Now they're both going to throw cleaver at first. You need to make sure you're going opposite sides. Perfect, and no one is in the middle. Now these two mobs are purely determined by how many, will die purely determined by how many cleavers you can get on each of them. Now, one of them is going to do Throw Flesh all the time. One of them is going to do Morbid Fixation. Morbid Fixation is an ability on the next boss as well. You need to make sure the person that is targeted is either running away or using an immunity to just keep them there. Now, as a rogue, as a mage, and as a hunter, you can feign death, vanish, or invisibility it off. You don't have to deal with it. As a paladin, you can bop someone with it if you want to. I would personally rather save it for the boss just in case the hook doesn't hit the boss. Or you can bubble it yourself or immune it as anyone, right? Remember, if you do a turtle it or you ice block it, it doesn't remove it. It just allows you not to die. But if the Morbid Fixation does hit you, you either get one shot or two shots, so just be very careful. Now you see the fixation goes on our hunter. Hunter immediately feigns it, which is perfect. Doing the right thing. Cleavers are going to go off on either side. They're going to go on each other. Boom, big damage. And this is very, very standard. Throw cleaver, kill, kill, kill. Okay, the next one's going to come up, which is gore grind and a bunch of bits. All you need to worry about here is a cleave. Now, this is not a tank cleave. This is a frontal that just is in front of the mob, and it will turn around and target anyone. So this is not the tank's fault if you get hit. Gut slice, literally can go anywhere in front of the mob, so you just need to make sure you're looking out for it. That is the only ability it does. Tenderize is the same thing that the Stitchworks do beforehand, so it's just the increasing debuff on the tank, so you just make sure that it's dying in a reasonable fashion, or you're dodging it, or you're running away if you have too many stacks. I know it's a very difficult mob to tank for a lot of tanks at a higher level, because they either stay there and think that they can tank 4 stacks and will survive, or they just don't understand how to run away and drop the stacks off. You just need to be very wary of that. Use your defensives, and if you don't have a defensive, just run. Just be safe. Just run, wait for the stacks to drop off. So this Rot Spew is the last adds in the entire dungeon. You've got 2 bosses straight up after this back to back. So the leftovers will jump around everywhere. The Rot Spew will target someone with a spit. Now, the spit can be feign deathed, but it'll just go on someone else. It can be invised, but it will just go on someone else. And as a warrior, if you get it, you can just spell reflect it if you do it in time. As a DK, you can just AMS it. It won't negate it, it just won't hit you. Like, you'll be able to negate the initial damage. On a high fortified, you want to be using a defensive every time it hits you, because it hurts a lot. And you'll have a ticking dot that will just hit you periodically throughout this fight here, because it has an aura around it, which just does a disease and a poison around you. As you can see, the melee are the ones that have the disease here, so me and the Windwalker Monk, and the ranged are far enough from the mob that they won't have the disease on them. So you just want to make sure you kill this in a timely fashion. Okay, so now we do have a lust up. We're going to grab the boss and we're going to get here. So this is the creation. This is not the boss, by the way. This is the mob. Now, what you're trying to do here is get the mob to a point where the next time it goes up, the boss goes up, you can use its hook, but also kill the mob after the hook has been done, so you don't have 2 of these creations at the same time, because the tank is going to be taking a lot of damage. So, we're going to grab the creation here. I'm going to go with Now the first hook needs to go up onto the boss platform, so you're just going to point the arrow. Whoever's got the arrow on them needs to point it at the boss. So it's our hunter that has it. Cool. Periodically, these swirls are going to drop on the ground. They're going to leave a pool there. Don't stand in the pool, obviously. Try not to tank anything near the pool if you can. I just need to tank it during the middle, so then people can have a straight shot at the boss and not miss the hook. Now the boss is going to come down. What we're going to do now is our healer immediately is going to chuck a weapon, which is going to be a spear, and it's going to go straight onto the boss. Now you're going to be targeting the boss here, Surgeon Stitchflesh. If it hits and it goes through or the creation, awesome. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. You want it though to go through the creation if possible, but if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. So Stitchflesh gets hit. Remember, as a tank, if you don't have a lot of MDs or Hunter's not doing it, you need to make sure you're instantly taunting him back. As you can see, I've lost aggro immediately because that weapon did 941k damage. So I'm going to instantly taunt it back. Good. So then the boss doesn't kill the healer. Now the creation's going to do another hook. Now this second hook needs to be on the boss, because the boss is going to do that morbid fixation we talked about before. Now you want the hook to hit the boss while it's doing morbid fixation or while it's casting it, so then it stops the morbid fixation. That is the only way you can stop it, unless you have feign death, invis, vanish, or use the defensive like a bubble or a bop. So it's gonna hook, good. It's gonna stop it, perfect. Now we do pop Lust here because we want to one-phase this. We don't want to waste time having to hook the boss back. But pretty much if you don't kill it in one phase, it's going to jump back up unless it is below 5% health. That small window will not jump back up again. So if you want to get it to 5% before it jumps back up, you can by just throwing an extra hammer or something, just to make sure it doesn't go up. But you need to make sure that this Stitchflesh is still alive, so the hook actually gets it. Otherwise, the boss, every time it goes up, spawns another abomination from the corner, so you'll just periodically get more abominations throughout the fight. You want to pretty much kill the boss before there's too many creations up there, because things start getting hairy. There's lots of hooks overlapping each other, there's a lot of damage going out to the tank, it starts getting a bit of a mess. So you only really want one abomination up and then the boss to be dead as soon as possible. So we pop Lust here, we pop all our cooldowns, meat hook's coming up in 2 seconds, the boss is jumping up in 3. Now it's got 7% left, it's probably going to jump up good. So we got to make sure our hook from the creation is going up to the platform again. So remember, the order is platform, hook, on the boss, hook on the ground. And then platform, on the boss, platform, on the boss. It's always back and forth. It's never 2 of them at the same time. So it goes up, it's going to grab it, we're just going to kill the boss. The next abomination spawns from the top corner, as you can see. I'm going to make sure I taunt that, and the boss is going to die. Good, beautiful. So now we're going to go up with the portal. Portal's going to take us up. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to pull the boss. We have 1 spear and 3 hammers left. Now the spear I'm going to be saving for when spawns. You don't want to spear at the start, because you can spear at the start if you want to, but ideally I like to spear when spawns or when one of the relics spawns, so I can kill the relic immediately at the same time as doing damage to the boss. Just makes more sense to me, right? You don't want to do it now, because you could kill any relic or all 3 relics and you won't like get the right relic. You most likely won't get the right relic. It'll just hit everything. So you want to be patient, wait for the relic that you want to die first, wait for it to spawn, and then use your hammer, and boom, dead. Okay? So not only did I get the hammer, not only did I spear the boss, I speared the boss during its shield, which broke the shield. I speared the which killed the which gave everyone else cooldown reduction, and also gave everyone healing and a mana regen as well, which is a really good combination there. Now, the boss is going to do a bunch of abilities. One is Comet Storm, as you can see here. Just go around a little circle. You don't have to do anything fancy. Just go around, find yourself a place and go around a little circle. Make sure you don't hit someone else. Very simple. It's going to periodically do Icy Shard on the tank. Now, Icy Shard, even though it says Icy Shard, you would think it's magic. It's actually a physical damaging ability. So AMS does not work on this, and magic reduction does not do anything. It is all physical damage from the Icy Shard. So remember that as a tank. It's a bit weird, I don't know why it's not magical, but it is a physical ability. Now, it's also going to cast an ability called Frozen Binds, which, as you can see on the top, is going to put a circle on the target, and is going to root them in place. Now, if anyone else is in that circle and you dispel that person, or that person breaks free from the root, it's just going to bounce the root to the other person or the people inside that root. So you need to make sure the person with the root, or it's going to get targeted with the root, is in a corner somewhere or on the side, and everyone else needs to run away from them, and then they get dispelled. Now, if you have a paladin, it is much easier to deal with this ability. You can see what the boss is targeting while it's casting it, and you can pop a freedom on them before the cast goes off, and it won't even, nothing will happen. Like, the root won't even happen, the circle won't appear, you just completely negate the entirety of that boss's ability. Very easy stuff. You're just going to be very quick on the money with that freedom. Paladins. So if you're a paladin there, make sure you're doing that. Helps a lot with this boss. Now, Dark Exile is the next ability that this boss is going to do. It's going to send someone down stairs, and they're going to do a little bit of a trial maze. So they're going to have to dodge a bunch of swirls on the ground, and there's going to be a mob at the end of the hallway where you need to kill, interrupt an ability, and then take the angel back up to the platform. Now, when you come back onto the platform, you are going to drop a massive pool of ice after a few seconds. Make sure you are putting yourself in one of these 4 corners over here. Do not put it in the middle, otherwise everyone's going to have to move around. It slows you, it does a lot of damage. You don't want to have the ice in the middle. Just remember that. Now, there are ways to avoid going down. You can use a warlock portal, a gateway, but before it, as it's taking you, sorry, you can warrior leap or you can charge. You can also feign death just before it happens, I'm pretty sure. Now, the only problem with that is you will have the debuff on you still from the boss, and you will end up dying a minute afterwards. So only do that if you're in the middle of a burn phase, or you have your cooldowns up or something, or you have B-reses available. So then you can just instantly res the person as soon as they die after the 1 minute ticking. So Dark Exile is going to send our monk down. Monk's got 48 seconds, not a minute, sorry, 48 seconds. So Comet Storm's going to happen again. Now, you're going to see we have 3 hammers left. So these hammers, I'm going to be calling them out. So you don't want to just use your hammers whenever you want. That's not the point of the hammers. The hammers are to break the Icebound Aegis, as you can see, which got 10 seconds left, which is a shield that the boss puts on themselves that needs to be killed in a timely fashion. Otherwise, the boss is just going to pulsate a massive amount of damage every few seconds, and the healer's just not going to be able to keep up. Now, you use those hammers to break the shield immediately. Also, you want to make sure you're coordinating when and who to use what hammer. This is why this weak-core is very important. Because if people have DPS cooldowns, you don't want to use a hammer because the DPS cooldowns are going to take care of the shield anyway. You want to be using the hammer when either 2 people are downstairs at the same time or nobody has any cooldowns. That's when you want to use the hammer. So use it for very specific scenarios. Don't just willy-nilly chuck them anywhere because you're going to need them for a high Tyrannical. You're going to need them for a high Fortified as well. So Icebound Aegis comes about in 4 seconds. I'm pretty sure I call for someone to use an ability here or use a hammer here. Just to make sure that it breaks the shield. So no one ends up using it. I don't think I call it then. So we have enough DPS to get rid of it. But as you can see, look how much damage is coming out just for not being able to kill that shield immediately. So we're just going to go through. Everything's the same, right? So as you can see, the Dark Exile comes back. We have our monk who is running up here on the top right. So our monk just came back from downstairs. He's going to drop his pool of ice right in the corner so it doesn't take up half the room. Pool of ice is going to drop, as you can see. And it's just in the corner. It's barely taking any space. Perfect. Our hunter goes down now and just rinse and repeat. Just swaps people in between. Icebound Aegis is going to come up. Someone's just gone down. I think our monk has cooldowns. It's got Zoen up, but we use a hammer. Oh, we don't use a hammer, actually. I thought I saw a hammer go through. So we now have still 3 hammers up. Now, because the boss is almost dead, usually if it's like about 20-25%, you can kind of send all your hammers because it'll do like 200k damage to the boss, and you essentially can kill it before the next Aegis comes up. So I think at this point, I wait for the next Aegis, I call everyone to use their hammers, and we're just going to pretty much kill the boss in this next phase. So binds come up, dispels that, Aegis comes up, everyone uses their hammer. We have both of them use the hammer. I forget I have the hammer, I think. Or I'm saving for an unexpected Aegis, maybe? Or I'm just making sure I can get the killing blow. So Aegis comes in 10. I think I'm just saving it for the Aegis now. No, I'm going to use it to kill the boss just before the Aegis comes up. Perfect. There you go. Easy 2 chests. 25-minute Necrotic Wake, no problems on a 22. Didn't have the best damage from everyone as well. Wasn't too bad. Still did pretty well. But yeah, that's the overview of Necrotic Wake. A lot of different things you can do there. A lot of different things you can do there. Little tips and tricks around there. A lot of management of mobs and positioning is extremely important, and there's a lot of interrupts that you need to get, which are pivotal in making sure that this dungeon is done smoothly and done well. Because the timer, this timer is so forgiving. If you wipe on a boss, you can still 2-chest this. It is such a forgiving timer. So if you're going to be looking for a really high key to get done, definitely this or Plaguefall, which is going to be in our next video in the next few days, are going to be the ones that you're looking to get the highest key done. But if you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section below. I really, really appreciate everyone. Love you all. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys in a few days for the next video. Peace out.